In these problems, we are going to solve equations by doing one step. That means we're going to either add, subtract, multiply, or divide to get the answer. And all we're going to do is what is opposite that's being done on the side of the variable. So we have a negative 22, so the opposite is a positive 22. And we have to do that on both sides of the equal sign. So when we do this, this gives me C, and 54 plus 22 is 76. So here's the one step. The one step in this case happens to be adding. So let's look at our next problem down here. We have G negative 25. So in this case, we will add 25, or positive 25, to both sides of the equal sign. That gives me a G. Notice that this time I'm doing it on the right side because the number is with the variable on the right side. And when I add, I get G equals 138. Once again, I have the J and I have a negative 87, so I'm going to add 87 to both sides of my equal sign. There's my one step. So J then equals, and adding positive and a negative gives me a positive 84. And so there's my answer to that one. These problems are one step, but this time we're going to be subtracting. But I like to look at it as taking a negative, because that's what we want to kind of get used to. So if I look over here, I have a positive 63 on the same side as the letter M. So I'm going to take a negative 63 on both sides. And so M then becomes a positive 16 when I add a positive 79 and a negative 63. If I look at the next problem here, I have a positive 27 on the same side as the variable, so I'm going to take a negative 27 on both sides. So then K equals a positive 3. Over here, I have a positive 16, but it's on the right-hand side with the letter P, so I'm using the 16. So you're always taking the adding or subtracting, or the positive and negative, on the side of the variable. And so in this case, I get a negative 28 is P. So there's my answer. Solving equations with multiplication or division, or both of them together in this case, is just basically doing the opposite. So if you have a fraction, and I'm just going to write this problem more like this, I have a multiplication of the Q and I have a division. So I'm going to do both steps, which really means I'm going to flip or take the inverse of that problem, inverse, and multiply that on both sides. See, the 3 times the 2, and the 3 times the 2 is 6, and 6 over 6 is 1, so they cancel out. And that's how we're left with Q. Over here, 3 times 1 is 3, and 2 times 2 is 4. And so we get our answer is 3/4. Let's look at this next one. 3/5 K equals 6. So the 3/5 on the same side as the K, I'm going to flip it as 5/3. 5/3, and I'm going to multiply on both sides. That cancels these to give me a K equals, and this is over 1, all numbers are over 1, 30 over 3, but that can be simplified to 10. 30 divided by 3. This one, in red, can't be. So let's look at our next problem. So if we look at our next problem, a negative 1/4 equals 2/3 B. The number on the side of the B has a fraction or a multiplication and a division. So we will then flip and multiply by 3/2 on both sides of the equal sign. These cancel to give me B. And I multiply 3 times a negative 1, which is a negative 3, 2 times 4, which is 8, and that can't be reduced, so there's my answer.